Hello everybody, welcome to Australia. So I know that it has been a very long time since I've posted a video, but life gets in the way and I just haven't really had the time or the energy to do this, and now I do, and now here I am, and it's almost been a year, and I'm very excited to be speaking about our last year of life in Australia. So let's jump right on into it. So there's a couple of questions that you guys have sent to me, and just a couple of things that I wanted to discuss with you that I've all written down here on a large piece of paper. Just a couple of notes. So let's just hop into it. I think Rick and my story is a little bit different from most sort of immigration stories, simply because we decided to take off 6 weeks at the beginning and do a trip right up the east coast of Australia in a camper van, and I am so glad that we did that. You know, we were very fortunate that we could do it sort of we don't have kids or anything to look after, and you know, we just have each other to look after, so that was awesome. But if you guys do have the time to do that, to settle in, definitely go for that. If you can do it financially, definitely do it. So for all of you that don't know, we came to Australia on a 189 visa. That's a skilled migration visa. Oh my gosh, I used to be able to read the stuff like in my sleep, and now I don't even really know it anymore. But yeah, so we're on a 189 skilled visa, and that means that we can go anywhere in Australia. So that's what made it really easy for us to travel, and made us feel confident in traveling. Whereas like with the 190 visa, I'm not really sure about traveling, but I'm sure you could travel. I think you just have to live and work where your state nominated to. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so that's what we decided to do. We landed in Sydney, sort of wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and like we weren't even tired, I don't think. We were just like so excited and driven, and like really just amped for this new life. And yeah, as soon as we sort of landed in Sydney, had about an hour stopover, and then went straight down to Melbourne. Spent a couple days in Melbourne. Oh yes, this is all the juicy stuff that you guys like to hear about. So obviously the first thing that you go and do is, well, we stayed in an Airbnb. Let's start at that. We stayed in an Airbnb. It was like the cheapest little place that we could find. It was a room in a Chinese artist's house, and there was just like every square centimeter of the wall was covered in art. It was like the coolest place to stay, and he was like the cutest little Asian man. It was really lovely, and like sort of right in the heart of Melbourne, and we just had an absolute blast, you know. So we only stayed there for 3 nights because, you know, we sort of wanted to do Melbourne, but then we really wanted to get on the road with a camper van, and you know, we wanted to be in Melbourne just to sort of sort out all the concrete things for a couple of days. That being our sort of getting our bank cards and things with our bank, and sort of sorting out cell phones. So we what did we do? Yeah, so we had sort of researched banks and things before we got into Australia. Oh, hello phone. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we had researched banks in Australia. We just found this really great bank called Commonwealth Bank, that just made it really easy for us to open up accounts. And for us, we were just like, let's just get our money over there and we can sort it out later. And to be honest with you, we haven't felt the need to change banks or anything. We've pretty much found all of them the same. And Commonwealth Bank has been like pretty good to us. Like, I think it's like every 3 or 4 months they give you a call, like check how you're doing. You know, obviously it's a sales call, but it's just nice to know that they care. And it's just they're just really easy to deal with. They're a national bank. It was just perfect for what we needed. So would highly recommend Commonwealth Bank if anybody out there was as stumped as we were looking for a bank. So yeah, we walked into our nominated branch, and like they were there like expecting us, you know, like, oh great, you're here, you know, here's your card, sign, tick, and off we were. Like I think it was a whole like 15-minute process. Then I think that exact same day we needed to go get SIM cards. And like this is also like, this was a little bit, I don't want to say difficult, because there's things like that are far more difficult in this world than like getting a SIM card and finding cell phones. But like what is difficult in like about immigrating, and I didn't expect this, is that like you can't really tell, or you don't really know what a good deal is, because you don't live here and you don't know how much things cost. And so like you'll look at one thing and go, holy moly, that's expensive, and like the Australian next to you will be like, wow man, it's really cheap, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, nah. And so like shopping around for cell phones, we were kind of like, didn't know really where we were getting the best deal. But I will very happily say that sort of like data and sort of cell phones and things are a gazillion times cheaper here than they are in South Africa, so don't you worry about that. So just to give you a rough idea, Rick and I together pay $70 a month, so that's for like together $70, so 35, and then I think we get 60 gigabytes of data that we can both use together. It's like a family account, so it's not like Rick gets 30 and I get 30, it's like together we get 60 gigabytes to use. So if he wants to use like 35 that month and I use 25, like it's fine, it's no big deal. It's sort of cross, you know, like you do not pay for calls here, like it just doesn't happen. You like can get sort of plans with international calls, but for what, you know, like when you've got data you just call over WhatsApp, right? Like, and yeah, SMSs you don't pay for either. So I feel like that's a lot cheaper than South Africa, so yeah, I better hurry up, this is going to be a very long video. Yeah, so we ended up going with Vodafone. I'm not really sure why, we just did. I think we were just kind of sick of looking at a point. So I'm sure if you shop around you could probably find a better deal. If you do, let me know in the comments and we can help each other out. Next thing, what did we do after that? Yeah, then we sort of just explored Melbourne a little bit and enjoyed. Did we get Medicare right away? No, we did not. Why? Because we are irresponsible. No, not because we are irresponsible, it's just because we did not know at that point where we were going to live. So the whole point of our East Coast trip was like, we don't know where we want to live. How can we immigrate to a country where we don't even know what the place looks like and where we want to be at, you know? And like Google only says so much to you, you know, you've got to see with your eyes and feel with your heart. So we just decided, let's go for this trip up the East Coast. And that's why we didn't get Medicare cards, because I had read somewhere once upon a time, I don't know how true it is, that you have to get your Medicare within the state that you're going to be living in. I don't know, but we were covered anyway because we had, first of all, I think we had travel insurance, and then I still think that we had our Discovery medical aid for like the next month or whatever, so we were good. So I don't want to go too much into our road trip because I think I might do another video on that, but guys, like whenever I pictured Australia before we came, because we'd never been to Australia, we just packed up our things and came and hoped for the best. Like whenever I thought about Australia, it was this big, great, sort of dry, arid, like red Mars-looking sort of continent, you know, with maybe sort of some dry eucalyptus forests sort of stuck in between, you know. That's just always how it felt. And then if you were lucky enough, you'd sort of get a beach and then you'd go surfing there, you know. Like that was Australia in my mind. But can I tell you, the drive from Melbourne sort of up through Wagga Wagga to Canberra, like, it's just, I felt like I was in Ireland or something. There was just this most beautiful, giant, rolling hills, and like the canola farms were out, so there was just giant, bright yellow sort of flowers everywhere, and I think I've got a picture of it, I'll post it. And it's just, Australia is just not what you think it is. Like, it is just so beautiful. Like, yes, there's the dryness of the eucalyptus trees, but like I love the eucalyptus trees now. Like I think they're ugly, but like they smell so beautiful when it rains, and it just smells like home to me now, and it is amazing. Yeah, so getting back to our road trip. So yeah, we drove sort of up through Wagga Wagga, Canberra, did a couple days in Sydney, and sort of just all up the little coast. And like also something that surprised me is how small some of the towns were. I'd always expected like Australia to be sort of big, hustle bustle, lots of things going on everywhere, you know. I expected the sort of whole east coast to be flooded, but there was some really, really rural, tiny little beachside towns that we went through that just, it just kind of, I didn't expect that. So we had a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and I'm hoping to do a little video on it, because I can't do it now. There's just too much to cover. But it was great, and if you can do it, I would highly recommend it. Mostly for one reason, and I feel like people that sort of come here, move into a place, like find a job and sort of do everything, I feel like you never really get a chance to sort of take everything in. I can imagine it must be incredibly overwhelming to do all of that all at once and try and figure out everything. Like I don't know how people do that, but for us it just made a lot of sense, and we were able to really just for a little while just relax, let ourselves feel safe, let ourselves feel at home, and really just immerse ourselves in the culture. And we absolutely loved it. It was great. I don't have much else to say about that, but yeah. So the question is, where are we actually living now? We are in beautiful Brisbane, and I kind of say that with a bit of hesitance because we aren't actually in Brisbane. We're in a little sort of city just outside of Brisbane called Ipswich, but it's probably more part of Brisbane than Ipswich. It's all technicalities, but yeah, we feel, because we have been sort of all the way up the coast, for us that Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast is just the best part of Australia. And say for us, it's because I'm probably going to kick myself for saying this, because now it's going to become overcrowded. But we love it because it's warm. We're close to a beach that you can actually swim in, because if you go too far north, there's sea crocodiles. Who knew those things existed? And like there's a lot of sea urchins. You go further down south, it gets really cold, you know, and like Sydney is just the most insane place you've ever been in your whole life. So Brisbane's like just busy enough, but also just quiet enough with the right weather. It is just the perfect sort of little sweet spot in Australia for us. We were lucky enough to find work here. I don't know if anybody else can. Anyway, let's hurry up a little bit in the video. So once we decided that we were going to live in Brisbane, we went all the way up to Cairns, and then we had to sort of drop the camper van back in. We decided, no, Brisbane is it. Rick had actually done an interview here on our way up, and he got all 3 of the jobs that he interviewed for. They all offered him jobs, so I'm very proud little wife over here, my wonderful husband. Yeah, so he found a really, really good job here, and then it became my job to set up house and find out where we were going to live. And like this was really hard again, because like when you're in South Africa, if I had to tell you now, like, oh, go find a place in like the East Rand, you know, what are the good areas, what are the bad areas, like you'll be able to go and tell me, or you'll ask your friend or whatever. And here it's like you don't know what is a good area and what's a bad area, and are you going to fit in with the sort of people, and like is it your vibe, and you know, does it have wide open fields, or like am I more of a city kind of person, or like you don't really know. So like I did about 1,000 k's of driving, like in like 3 days, like just trying to find like a place to live, like a little sort of pocket of what we wanted to call home. Because, you know, there's a lot of factors, you know, it's like, is it the sort of right place that you want to stay? Is it close to work? Is it like, does it fit in with your budget? What is our budget? We don't really know how much money we're earning, really, you know, how much do things cost, really. So it's all like really kind of overwhelming, you know. But you make a way through. Like, just be modest at first, get jobs, and then you'll soon figure out what you can and what you can't afford. Yeah, anyway. Oh, I didn't talk about a car. So we actually have a couple of friends down on the Gold Coast who are just the most loving, wonderful, amazing people in the world, and they are just so incredibly generous, and they just took us like under their wing and helped us out. And like, we stayed at their place for like 2 days, and then we sort of found another Airbnb in Brisbane for another sort of 5 days while we were sorting ourselves out. But yeah, so while we were down on the Gold Coast, we sort of jumped onto, where did we find it? Like an auto trader or whatever, and I searched and searched and searched because I'm very picky, and I found a great little car. Not a great little car, my favorite car ever. And yeah, we sort of went and checked her out, bought her second hand, and that was just, it was really easy. Like, I had because we didn't have driver's licenses yet in Queensland, we needed to get something called I'll go look it up and I'll put it here, but don't worry about it until you're getting your car, because they are just so helpful, and if they're not helpful, then screw them, you know, they don't deserve the sale. So but the guy that we were working with is so helpful. Like, we got there the same day, we sort of got the little number from the Department of Transport that we needed, we went back there, we got our little check that we needed, bing bang bada boom, we brought the car home the same day. So it was really awesome and simple, and things were easy. And what really surprised me, like, even with the cell phones or with the car, like, they didn't like ask us for like proof of address and like sort of your mother's maiden name and like all this, like, they just like take everything as word. They're like, oh yeah, okay. Like, it's so easy to lie to these people, but people don't. Like, they just tell the truth. They're just honest, genuine, good people, and I love it. It's amazing. So yeah, it was really, really simple to get the car. Yeah, and so while Rick was out at work, I sort of dropped him off at work, and then that was me. Like, I was on my computer the rest of the day, just like searching, googling, finding. And because it wasn't really a problem, like finding a place to live, it was a problem like finding a place with the availability that we had to get into a place. So like, we were sort of on a time crunch. We needed to get into a place like the next week, because that's when our Airbnb was running out, and we didn't want to go find another one. We wanted to be in our house. We were sick of like not having our own space after being in a camper van for 6 weeks. We just wanted to be in our own place. And so I remember I was driving down the highway, and I was so sick and tired of like looking at different suburbs, and just nothing felt right. It just all felt you know, like almost there. And I was driving down the highway, and I took the off-ramp to a place called Springfield where we live, and I just looked, and there was just this beautiful lake to the side, and there was just birds and like this beautiful sign that said Springfield Lakes, and I was like, actually I wasn't, I was like, yes, 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 banging on the steering wheel, because I just knew that this is where we were gonna live. This was just it for me. And now I just had to find a place here, and I did, and it was in budget, and it worked out, and like, we have our little house now. And yes, you guys wanted to talk about sort of renting and finding a place. So renting is a bit different here. So we've never actually sort of rented a place, so we don't have like rental sort of history or anything behind our names at all. We've just always lived in our own house, and like before we moved, we were living in one of my parents' houses, so we've never really had any of that. So the way that we got around that is we offered the landlord sort of like, I think it was 3 months rent up front, and that just totally convinced him. So he was really happy to take the money, we were happy to take the place. It was like a win-win situation. Here you pay week rent, you pay rent weekly. You have to put your deposit is called a bond. I think that's 2 weeks worth of rent, I think. Yeah, so we ended up, and then like when you sign in, you have to put up 2 weeks to begin with. So we ended up putting like 4 months rent up front to the landlord, which he was really happy about, and we were really happy about it as well, because we ended up really liking the place that we're staying in. And so like we're sort of way ahead with our rent. The landlord's happy, we're happy. So renting is really weird here, and the reason I say that is because like they just come into your house at like random times, and I don't want to say like random times, like they send you notifications, but like they'll come into your house to do inspections while you're not there. And like this is a common thing. Like when they first said, we're coming to do an inspection, I'm like, oh, can you please move it to after hours so that I can be there? They're like, no, we don't have, you don't have to be there. What are you talking about? And I went to my colleague at work, and I was like, this is like really weird. And she's like, no, it's not. This is normal here. And I'm like, oh. And it was really like a sort of a bit of a barrier to climb, because like how it is in South Africa, like you're so attached to sort of like your possessions and like people stealing from you that you don't like, it just felt weird for somebody to come in your house. But now we've had like them come in here I think 3 times. Then the next time they came to replace the stove because I broke the stove. And then like they came to fix the ceiling fans because the ceiling fans were working, and then they came in to do like pest control, and it's just like the most normal thing in the world. But it kind of feels like a reciprocal agreement, because you're paying money to be here, but they're looking after you. So it's like, it's not kind of like, here's your house, live in it, stay in it, we're not going to look after you. It's kind of like, here's your house, we have a reciprocal responsibility to take care of the house with you, and you guys also need to take care of the house. So it feels really like good to me, at least. It didn't, but it does now. I don't know what else to say about renting. Alrighty, let's move on to the juicy stuff. Oh my gosh, this is so long. But I used to love videos like this, so I'm going to keep on going for a little while. Okay, bank account renting. Okay, one of the questions was, how are we adjusting? And the answer to that is very well. Is it easy? No. And I say that not because of a reason that I thought that I would say no, it's not easy beforehand. I say that no, it's not easy because it's hard to explain, and I don't know if it's just Rick and I that have gone through this journey together, and so like maybe we understand each other, maybe like other people who've immigrated won't even know what we're talking about, but we feel like because we're in a place now where we finally feel safe, where there are good intentioned people around us, where we can just kind of be ourselves, that there's this whole heap of like emotional stuff that's come up that we never really even knew was there, that we've just been sort of suppressing because we actually probably physically couldn't deal with it in such a toxic environment like South Africa, and now we can. And I just feel like we've become much better people, and we've just really unlocked sort of different parts of our personalities and our spiritualities. And oh my gosh, I sound like I'm from Byron Bay or something. Oh my god, I swear. I'm not a hippie. It's just been an awesome experience, and I really hope that anybody that's moved here like can get through that experience. But yes, it does get emotional and it does get ugly, but I can tell you right now, through the hardest day that I've had here, for the day that I was just absolutely miserable within myself and just not really in a good place at all, and missing my family and just fighting with Rick and just really being, oh, not once did I say I wish I was back in South Africa. Not once. And that was at my lowest, absolute lowest. So you guys are gonna love it. It's awesome. It really is. We are having the best time ever. And I want to say this to you just because we've met a couple of South Africans along the way, and this is just our take on it and the way that we're approaching the move, and it's worked for us, is don't come here and want all the comforts of home. Don't come here and expect everything to be like it is or like it was, because it isn't. And don't try and bring the way of your life into here, because you're just going to get knocked down time and time and time again. Come here, immerse yourself in the culture, enjoy it, sort of re-transform yourself to work and act like an Australian does, because at the end of the day, this country works and ours didn't. What is this guy doing? You're not even in this. Look at it. Go. He's such a dog. I'm almost done.
Lucky dancers if you want, eh?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just like it really irritates us sort of when we meet some South Africans and like they're like sort of watching the rugby, and you know they've got the proevos on the braai, and you know these Australians, they don't know how to do this, and like of course they don't, because they're not South African. Like they're Australian and they're awesome, and we love them, and they are like obviously you're gonna get your bad people, but what makes Australia work, and I say this time and time again, is it's not the laws, it's not the police, it's not the sort of foreign policies and crap. It's that the people are honest, genuine, good people who don't need constant policing to follow the law, and to be considerate of one another and to be kind. And it's absolutely just awesome to have people that are just kind, just because it's the way things are done, just to be kind. This video is really long now. Maybe I'll do another one. Let me know if there's anything that I've missed or anything else that you guys want to know about. I hope that I've given you a little bit more insight into what it's really like to move, because I didn't feel like I found anything like this. I didn't really know what to expect. So get excited. It's going to be great. Like, I wish somebody had told me that, you know, don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. Follow the river. Like, you're gonna have the best time ever. You'll be just fine. I promise you. Bye guys.